Hello and welcome, everyone. We are absolutely delighted to have each and every one of you here. So thank you for joining us today. We've got a couple of you here, and we've got more joining, and love it every time we have somebody here because it means you're doing exactly what I did. I know that when I first started looking into coaching and coach training and coach certification, I explored different programs. What's out there? How does it work? So of course, our objective today is to answer those questions for you. I do want to let you know we received your questions ahead of time. We've got those. And of course, you're welcome to ask more as we move through the conversation today. There are two different ways you can do that. One is that in your control panel, you can actually type in questions. And the other is this. Sometimes we have people brave enough to come on live or prefer coming on live instead of questioning by typing. And you can do that by raising your hand. I will unmute you individually and you can ask your question live. So we are open to whatever works for you. And I do know that I've already got people that have asked, will you have access to the information again? And the answer to that is yes. At the end of the program, we do load it on our YouTube channel, and I'll send all of you a link to that YouTube recording. Plus, I've got something else. I'll tell you about that at the end of the call, and it will be in that email too. So let's dive in. What is our agenda for the conversation today? We are going to define coaching. Hey, what exactly is this? We'll cover some coaching statistics and insights. What's the conversation out there about coaching? We will talk about the staircase to success coaching model. It is a great way of really understanding the coaching relationship. And then we will also talk through the process of coaching, how it actually happens step by step. From there, we're going to discuss both pros and cons of certification. Of course, I'd love to say, hey, it's all pros. I know there are cons, so we've got to acknowledge that as well. We will discuss the reasons people choose certification with the Center for Coaching Certification, what to look for in a training program wherever you go, because there are so many wonderful options, opportunities for coaches, and then we'll talk about the programs at the Center for Coaching Certification. For those of you that are still joining and popping in, I do want to add, again, please feel free to ask questions either by typing them in your control panel or raising your hand, and we can unmute you and you can come in live. Very much want to answer your questions. All right, so first off, what exactly is coaching? This definition comes from the International Coach Federation. That is the leader in the profession. That's where our gold standard is in terms of coaching. I'll give you more on that organization in a moment. First off, let's really be aware of the language, because the language itself in this definition is absolutely powerful. It's insightful. So first off, it talks about coaching, and this is whether it's executive, career, business, wellness, life, or academic, as a strategic partnership. Now that word partnership is very, very significant. So often when we think about hiring a professional, we hire them because they're an expert and they're going to take the lead and they're going to provide the answers. In coaching, it's very different. It's a strategic relationship and it's a partnership. The coach is on equal footing with the client. The coach's job is to, it goes on to say, empower the client. So we put them in charge of being the expert. And we do that so that the client clarifies their goals, creates their own action plans, figures out how they will move past those obstacles and does it, and they achieve what the client chooses. So the whole focus of the definition here is on the client, putting them in charge, making them their own best expert. And that is the power of coaching. It's where it's different from any other professional service. Okay, so let's continue forward. In terms of the International Coach Federation, I promised we'd share who they are. So first off, they are a nonprofit organization. They are coaching professionals. So for example, I'm a member of their organization. They are the gold standard in the coaching profession. They provide us with a code of ethics that we're accountable to when we're members. So every single member of the ICF being accountable to that, and they provide us with standards for training programs. So for example, and we'll talk about this, when you're looking at coach training, you want to make sure it's been approved by the International Coach Federation. That is your number one criteria. And the good news, having said that, is they have approved literally hundreds of training programs, so you have a lot of really great options. It is incredibly important to look for it. In addition to that, they have standards for membership. So before I was eligible to join, for example, I was required to have 60 hours of coach-specific training. So they have that membership requirement. Now, membership, we equate to, okay, let's say you got your degree. That's like becoming a member of the ICF, is getting a degree in coaching. Credentialing with the ICF is like saying, okay, now I'm going to get a master's or a doctorate. So it's an analogy or a comparison there. How do you explain it? So membership has one set of standards, and then above and beyond membership, you can earn credentials that demonstrate you have additional training hours and additional experience. So when you think about coaching, what are the reasons people actually use coaching? Forbes magazine put out an article and they said, do you have a coach? If not, you could be limiting your career success. That's powerful for them to put it out that way. Then you've got a study that was done by the International Coach Federation and HCI. And in that study, what they said is that 60% of respondents from organizations with strong coaching cultures report their revenue to be above average in comparison to their peer group. So Robert, I'm seeing your question. You want to issue PDH and CEU for classes that you as a company have developed. Yes, I'm going to say I agree. This is probably different than what you're looking for. This program is focused on becoming a coach and getting certified as a coach, which is different than being able to give the CEU. So we are accredited by IACET, the International Association for Continuing Education and Training. We're also approved by the International Coach Federation to give credit for the program. It sounds like you're looking for those similar accreditations or approvals, and that's a different topic. Do email me individually. I'm happy to send you some websites to check out for that information. Okay, thanks for that question. We want to make sure we're getting everybody covered. All right, so people use coaching because it really works. Let's keep going into that. Denison Consulting cites coaching as the organizational development tool of choice. We use it for leaders. We use it for emerging leaders. It's absolutely a powerful tool. Okay. Coaching is the second fastest growing profession in the world. Number one being IT, coaching is 2. That's phenomenal. It's exciting. Okay. Coaching, a study on it by Amoco Corporation, which is part of British Petroleum. They looked at it over a 10-year period. And here's what they found. The people that were involved in the coaching, their managers, said that compared to other managers, the ones that weren't involved, the coaching participants consistently demonstrated improved performance, increased ratings of potential for advancement, and check this out, 50% higher average salary increases. Wow. And the participants themselves attributed this directly to the coaching they received. Fortune magazine said that business coaching is attracting America's top CEOs because, put simply, business coaching works. And the article goes on to explain the average return is 6 times what the coaching costs the company. Now, in that article, from what I'm picking up, they looked at a number of different studies that are available, Manchester Inc., Metrics Global, Triad Performance Technologies. So a number of different places that research coaching, the return on investment. And that's where that average number comes from. So great article in Fortune magazine. Now, Harvard Business Review looked at the reasons that coaches get hired in the first place. When they talk to companies, here's what companies tell them. 48% of the time, they bring in coaches to develop high potential employees or to facilitate transition. 26% of the time, they bring in coaches to act as a sounding board. So think about this for a moment and what that means to us, what the implication is. Having a coach in a company is kind of like saying, hey, you've arrived. You get the corner office with the window. Now, sometimes people bring up, well, yeah, I coaches for a problem. No, think about it this way. Paying for a coach is an investment. When a company is willing to invest in their employee, it's because they want that person to be successful. So sometimes they're aware there's a behavior that's getting in the way of their success. They'll bring in a coach to address that and move the person forward. So 48% of the time for the high potentials to facilitate transition, this is telling you back to that tool of choice. 26% of the time, the sounding board, they're working with executives at the highest level. And these are executives that having someone they can think out loud with, talk it through, someone who's going to challenge their thinking and expand it with questions, serves them well, and it serves their company well in terms of the decisions that are made and how that impacts the bottom line. An interesting tidbit that came out of this study from Harvard Business Review is that 76% of the time, personal issues get addressed. Now, a few years ago, people used to be surprised by that. Increasingly, we're aware. Whatever is going on for that individual on a personal level, whether it's health, relationships, financial considerations, whatever it is, it comes to work with them. So it makes sense that hey, if that gets addressed, then when they are at work, they're fully focused and engaged. So really good awareness. Now, when an individual is going to hire a coach, ICF studied that one, and here's what they found. Number one reason, career. Whether they're launching a brand new career, they're changing careers, or they want to really focus on their career path and enhance it. Business management. Makes a lot of sense. When people go into business, it's because they're really good at the product or at the service. Having a business coach empowers them in terms of how they operate the business, how they grow it, how they develop it, everything that's going on there. Self-esteem is huge. And sometimes we're surprised by that, and then we think about it and we go, it absolutely fits. It makes sense. Because what's the number one barrier holding most people back? Ourselves. And it's because we're wondering, okay, am I really okay? Can I do this? Do I deserve this? And we challenge ourselves and our own ability to make something happen. So when you have a coach that's addressing the self-esteem, that in and of itself is huge. It makes a difference in what people achieve. The other big area that came up, we've heard this a long time, work-life balance, and it's even more true now than it was before. People are doing more with less. They're working more hours, and they want to figure out, how do I make that work where, yes, I complete that commitment on the work side, and I take care of myself and have time for myself as well. There is a bottom line impact to coaching. You saw a hint of that earlier. Here's one of the studies that I believe Fortune magazine was looking at, and it came from Manchester Inc. It is the most commonly cited ROI study out there. They said a 570% return on investment. So think about that for a minute. For every dollar that's put into the program, 570% back. It simply begs the question, how can you afford not to have a coach? It's that full of power in terms of results. Now, here's another study that looked at productivity. When you do training, you increase productivity 22.4%. When you combine training with coaching, you have an 88% productivity gain, 4 times the impact. This is from a study done by Public Personnel Management, and it's amazing to see that much of a difference. When you think about it, it makes sense because a training program is fabulous. It's providing you information and opportunity to practice with it, etc. When you add coaching on to that, what it means is somebody is saying to you, okay, what did you learn? How are you applying that? What are you implementing? How's it working? What do you want to adjust? What's next? And how are you acknowledging your own progress and success? So it's the follow through, the application of the information gained from training. I believe this is one of the reasons that ATD, the Association for Talent Development, cites coaching as a core competency for training professionals. Now, when people actually decide who they're going to hire as a coach, according to Harvard Business Review, there's 2 main things they're looking for. One is experience in a similar setting, and the other is a clear methodology. So in terms of experience in a similar setting, that's what you already bring to the table. The education you already have, the experience you already have. Where have you worked? Now, does it have to be exactly the same? No. Does it have to be relatable? Yes. So I'll give you an example. Every once in a while, somebody will say, you know, if you're a high school graduate, you can coach the CEO of a company. That may be possible. The CEO is unlikely to take that seriously because they want someone that is going to get their world. Does that mean you had to have been a CEO? No. Chances are experience you've had as a high-level manager or HR professional is going to get you there because it's a similar setting and they feel like you're going to get their world. They also want to know you have a clear methodology. That's what you gain from a coach training program. So for example, our analogy or description, if you will, of the coaching relationship is tied to building a staircase. So pretend like you've gone into contracting now and you want to build that staircase. So what do? Well, the first step in building the staircase is building the framework for the staircase. In coaching, that framework equates to, yes, having training. True of any profession out there. If you're going to spend money on a professional, you want to know they've been trained to do the work they do. After all, who's going to hire an accountant who's never had any training in accounting? Or who's going to hire a dentist that hasn't been trained as a dentist? So you look for that. And of course, in keeping with the training, you want somebody who's developed a level of competency. That's where having a training program that really develops those competencies is so significant. From there, you want to know they have a code of ethics in place. Now, of course, people that come into coaching, we come here because we have a passion for helping other people and for really making a difference. And with that kind of heart, you come here being an ethical person. At the same time, there are things we don't know that we don't know in terms of coaching ethics until we actually go through and study it and learn it. So that's our framework for the relationship. Now we're ready to build the stairs, or actually build the relationship. The first step in a coaching relationship is the agreement between the coach and the client. The agreement starts with a verbal conversation and then is built with a written agreement that we sign, defining the relationship, what we're doing, how we're working together. With that agreement in place, we can take the next step, and that's understanding. It is incumbent on the coach to understand the client. Who are they? How do they think? How do they process? How do they function? How are they perceiving this? And with that understanding as a coach, we have the opportunity to adjust, to flex ourselves and our process to that individual client. This in turn supports the next step of developing rapport. Rapport is the number one indicator of success in a coaching relationship. It means that you've developed trust in the relationship. It means that you can have some of those tough, intimate conversations. It means the client is comfortable with you as their coach. That in turn supports the step of communication. In coaching, when we talk about communication, we're talking about the coach listening deeply to what the client is saying, being clear and direct, and asking powerful coaching questions, because that supports the step of exploration, wherein the client is exploring what their different opportunities are, their possibilities, they're brainstorming, and then choosing what they want to do. And from there, they're figuring out their approach. Okay, what are the potential barriers? What are the resources? What are their action steps? They're creating their strategy for how they're going to make it happen. And that is completely supported in that exploration process, and in turn leads to the doorway at the top of the stairs that we define as success. And it's the client who decides what success is. So this describes the relationship itself. What's the actual process of a coaching engagement? So typically when you're going to start a coaching engagement, we do what we call an introductory session. This is a freebie, if you will, a 20, 30-minute conversation so that you can decide if you want to have a coaching relationship. It is an opportunity for the client to get to know the coach and for the coach to get to know the client. It's an opportunity for the client to experience a taste of what coaching is like and how it works so that you can decide if you're going to engage in a coaching relationship. When you do decide, you move into what we call an opening session. A big picture exploration. What does the client want in all different areas so that we understand all of their interests, because they'll have competing priorities, they'll have influencing factors. And it creates that awareness of the client's big picture, which in turn sets the coach up to really empower the client with their focus and being truly engaged in moving toward what they want. On an ongoing basis in the coaching relationship, it is the client who prioritizes what they want to work on. And they are then empowered by the coach to develop their strategies, define their action plan, and then the coach is there as their accountability partner, checking in on their progress, acknowledging successes along the way. And this continues throughout the coaching relationship. Now, the average coaching relationship is 12 months. When you move toward that time of completion for the client where they gain what they're going to gain in this coaching relationship, one thing that the coach is going to do is make sure the client is setting themselves up to maintain their progress and success for the long term. What are their strategies for after coaching? And then in a closing session, they're looking at, okay, what was gained from this coaching relationship, and letting the client know that the door is open. So yes, we're complete at this point, and if there's a time where it's appropriate to come back and reopen it, come on back and we can do more. So that describes the process itself. Now let's look into certification, pros and cons of certification. First off, does it really matter if you get certified? I actually get asked that question. It's kind of like asking, gee, does it really matter if a counselor goes to school first or a doctor goes to school first? Of course it matters. The International Coach Federation did a study, and 83% of the time, individuals who participate in coaching believe it's important for the coach to possess a certification or a credential. Please note, coaching is still considered a young profession. People are still learning about this. And people who worked with a certified coach or a credentialed coach are 15% more likely to actively recommend that coaching to someone else. That's exciting. Now let's dig into the real meat of this. Start with the cons. What are the cons to coaching certification? It's like anything we do in terms of a profession. It takes time to get certified and it takes money. And quite simply, that is it. It's the benefits of what we learn and what we gain in any kind of schooling or education service in so many different ways. So in terms of coaching, yeah, it really boils down to it takes time and it takes money to get that certification. Now, on the pro side, it is a career advancement opportunity. So here's what we're seeing in that regard. When an organization has an HR department, a talent development department, coaching is considered one of the skill sets for people in those departments. For example, we mentioned earlier, ATD cites coaching as a core competency for talent development professionals. SHRM, the Society for Human Resource Management, and actually HRCI as well, look at coaching as a competency area for HR professionals. So when somebody has a coaching certification and they're in those fields, it absolutely increases their opportunities for advancement. I love hearing the stories from graduates. Hey, as a matter of fact, got an email a few days ago that a graduate of the program was offered a job, and one of the things that made them stand out above other candidates was their coaching certification. Beyond the professional areas that call for coaching, here's what we also know. If somebody is in a leadership role, their coach training is going to improve their leadership skills, which in turn increases their opportunities. So it's tremendous. Now, in terms of people outside of the corporate space, very often what we're going into coaching certification for is to start a part-time business or a full-time business, or for an after career. You're successfully retiring out of a career and want to do something in your retirement time. So it's an opportunity in any one of those areas, and we'll dig into all of that individually. First, I often get asked, okay, there's so many different coach training programs out there, certifications, how do I choose? What I can share with you is what people have told us. This is the reason we picked this program. So one of the things that they tell us is that they pick it because of the credibility of the organization. That's a bit of a challenge if you don't know us. How do you know if it's credible? That was my question when I was looking. So in terms of credibility, look at the approvals and accreditations of an organization, how long it's been around, and look at some of the testimonials out there. That's going to help you start narrowing in. Another thing that people really value and appreciate is the tools that we provide. So throughout the program, we're providing tools, and after you graduate, you have a login page with dozens and dozens of documents, tools to help you as a coach. In addition to that, we do provide ongoing support. So we have a couple of things going on in that. We have continuing education. We do 30 minutes free every month. We do a 60-minute program every other month. We also have an online searchable directory for coaches helping to promote you. In addition to that, we publish a book once a year, and the chapters are written by graduates of the program. We do have a blog with new articles every week, and our social media sites where we stay active and engaged with you. Plus, on our Coach Login page, we have a recording on business, a recording on marketing, and the opportunity to register for a free Q&A call every month. We provide professional development in that we are the only ICF-approved program that is also accredited by the International Association for Continuing Education and Training to offer CEUs, which means that whatever designation you already have, if it requires continuing education, chances are this is going to cover you. And so those requirements for professional development and continuing education. People also choose this because of the personal development. Learning coaching skills is learning skills that are useful in every area of our life. So what do you actually want to know about the training? First off, how long is it? There are programs out there that are a few hours. There are programs that take 10 years to complete. It's absolutely across the board. So let's hone in. The Center for Coaching Certification Certified Professional Coach program is 30 hours. The Certified Master Coach program is 35 hours. Now, we do have additional programs. These two are the programs that get you to the level of being able to join the International Coach Federation. And if you do want to earn a credential, that gets you to that first level of credentialing. In terms of location, there are programs online, there are programs you travel to. At the Center for Coaching Certification, we give you both options. So we do programs in major cities around the United States. The cities that we go to once a year. And on top of that, we also do programs that are completely online. Our international students love that. Some people love it because of the convenience of the scheduling. It is the exact same program either way. And the feedback we get on it is people love how involved and engaged they are in either format. Now, in terms of cost, programs that are out there range. We've seen $400, we've seen $20,000. It's across the board. The most common thing I hear from people is, wow, you should add to your price, make it higher. And you know what, I love the fact that we can do a price point that really works. And it's because of our model and how we're set up. So we managed to keep it very affordable. The Certified Professional Coach program is $16.95, and our Certified Master Coach program is $18.95. In terms of a training, whatever training you look for, I mentioned earlier, look for that ICF approval. What does that mean? It means that your training is going to develop the 11 core competencies of a coach. Specifically, these competencies are sorted into 4 different category areas. The first category for coaching competencies is setting the foundation. And in that core category, we have 2 of our competencies. One of them is meeting ethical guidelines and professional standards. That means look for a program that actually does a class on ethics. You want to discuss it and cover it and find out what you didn't know. Then establishing the coaching agreement. So I'll give you an example. We do a class where we talk about coaching and model how to explain it with clients. Plus, we provide examples of written coaching agreements. Next, you want a program that develops in you the competencies for co-creating the relationship. So one of those is establishing trust, that level of intimacy with the client. We talked about rapport being the #1 indicator of success. So co-creating that relationship means how are you, yes, self-aware, and how are you aware of the client, who they are, how they're thinking, how they're functioning, how they're processing, so that you in turn adjust to them. It involves the next competency of coaching presence, being there with the client in the moment, focused on them, and the ability to dance in the moment with them. You want a program that is going to teach you specific techniques for communication. Now, what we find is we often have people that are graduates in areas of communication, work in areas of communication, and love the specific techniques that we talk about because it really enhances and takes it to the next level. So what are the ways you literally, physically, actively listen and hear on a deep level? Powerful questioning, different types of questions, and how to formulate coaching questions, because coaching questions are different than any other type of question out there. And then tips on your communication, how to be clear, direct, succinct, and respectful at the same time. Your fourth category of competency that you want to make sure you're developing in a training program includes creating awareness. That is where the coach is exploring with the client, asking them questions, expanding their thinking, challenging their thinking so that they are aware of different perspectives. Designing actions means you're asking them for their specific measurable action steps. You're partnering with them on planning the coaching relationship itself and then also on their own goal setting. The coach is there as an accountability partner. So how do you manage the progress of the client and acknowledge it, hold them accountable, and celebrate their successes? So all of this in a coach training program so that it's designed very specifically to develop those 11 competencies in you. In terms of quality of training, back to that, it's a bit of a challenge. How do you really know if a coach training program has got that quality? What I can tell you, we mentioned it earlier, yes, we're approved by the International Coach Federation. And as I said, there are many, many options in that regard. I do love the fact that we can say we are the only ICF-approved program that is also accredited by the International Association for Continuing Education and Training to offer CEUs, those professional development units. Another thing I'm going to share with you is who participates. We find that we have a lot of people from ATD join our program. That's your talent development and training professionals. We find we have a lot of HR professionals, so organizations like SHRM and HRCI. We see a fair number of financial planners. We love that. It makes a lot of sense because for financial planners, coaching skills are immediately applicable in the work they're already doing. Business owners, NABO is an example of that. We also see image consultants in the program. We're continuing ed for AICI, the Association of Image Consultants International. The International Coach Federation, a lot of members there because they're doing their own ongoing professional development. Members of IACET who understand the quality of a program that's accredited, and mental health professionals, because coaching is a natural complement to the work that they do, and increasingly they're interested in coaching skills and in doing coaching. We see a large number of consultants, and it's most often because their clients want them to also offer coaching services. And then we see a lot of project managers as well. So a question that came in, and I love this question. Let me read it for everybody. It says, is it feasible to use a coaching agreement of yours right off the shelf, or do you recommend that we use it as a template to build our own with input from a lawyer? Doug, I'm going to say it's a choice. I will share with you that one of the samples we provide you is actually the one I use. I recommend to people that they look at all 5 samples that we provide. They find what they like from each of them. And then I also recommend get your code of ethics out and look at what the code of ethics tells you to include. Now, from there, some coaches are more comfortable going to an attorney and having it looked at, and some coaches feel, hey, I feel like this covers it. So it is a choice at that point. Part of it's going to be a risk aversion. That part's up to you. So we do want to make sure we give you the examples, and yes, it is something you can use if you want to. Added note on who attends the program with us. It is people who have a passion for empowering others, because that is the most powerful thing in terms of being successful as a coach. Ultimately, it means that in terms of who's going to benefit from coaching, leaders, trainers, educators, consultants, managers, HR professionals, project managers, service providers, business owners. These are skills that are immediately applicable in what you do, because coaching is all about people and communication skills. It simply makes sense. Now let's dig into the different ways it's an opportunity. So we mentioned career opportunity. HR people, talent development people. There are companies that now hire coaches, and that is their job, is to be coaching. So there are those opportunities out there. I also mentioned to you the idea of it being an opportunity for somebody in a leadership role, because they're going to be heads above others when they have the coaching skills. Now let me back that up. You're probably familiar with the Gallup poll that said the number one reason people quit their job is the bad boss or immediate supervisor. And maybe you're also familiar. Back in 2011, Business News put this out. And think back to 2011. That was when we were in a down economy. And during a down economy, 84% of workers wanted to quit their job. And we're finding this number holds to the vast majority wanting to quit, the vast majority being disengaged, etc. So it's amazing what's happening. And it all goes back to what Right Management said. This is about employee dissatisfaction and discontent. You perhaps have heard the expression, people don't leave their company, they leave their boss. So now imagine for a moment, if you are the manager or the supervisor, you are a leader in your organization and you develop coaching skills. What does that mean to you? That means you are developing skills that support effectively interacting with people, motivating them, supporting them as they move forward. And that's going to make you a phenomenal leader. In terms of personal skill development, coach training is going to include developing your communication skills, your listening, assertive language, and questioning. And that is applicable in all areas of our life. Frankly, I'm a better mom. I'm a better grandma because of what I learned in coach training. Our people skills, recognizing different personalities and flexing to them based on who they are, and then goal setting, a process for defining goals that literally motivates the follow through on it. That's useful in everything we do. Now, in terms of business, whether you want to do this as a part-time business, a full-time business, or an after career, here's some research from the International Coach Federation. The hourly cost for a coach ranges from $100 to $3,500. Now, let me just throw this out. $3,500, that means you're coaching Oprah Winfrey or some of your famous figures. The median rate for coaching is $500. It does vary depending on the type of coaching you're doing and where you live. Different countries are completely different in terms of price point. Different areas of the United States are completely different. Also in terms of type of coaching. So if we still stick with relating that to US dollars, life coaching is typically 100 to 200. If you're doing business coaching, you're more in the 200 to 400 range. And if you're doing executive coaching, it's 400 to 600 more commonly. So it does vary. Currently, or most recent number, one coach for every 29,000 people. So as much as it sounds like, oh yeah, coaching's growing fast, everyone's talking about it, there's a lot of room for more. So it is definitely an opportunity, whether it's an add-on service for something you're doing already or as a part-time or full-time business. Please note, if you go into business as a coach, it's like any other business you go into. You want to educate yourself on business, on marketing, on getting yourself out there, because being in business for yourself does take work for building the business. Let's go through the programs themselves and give you specifics on what's covered and how they work. So the first step for somebody moving into coaching is our Certified Professional Coach program. It starts with a series of online classes. What's important to know is they are at a scheduled time and it is live participation, which means you'll see a list of everyone who's there. You'll be talking, asking questions, answering questions, participating in discussion. So it is live and interactive. The beauty of it being online is you get to do it from the comfort of your own desk. Now, the first class we do is called About Coaching. talking about what it is and isn't, and going through the core competencies and exploring that. We move into a class on ethics, and we really have a lot of fun in that class. We talk about, hey, if this comes up, what do you do with it? If that happens, we say, hey, how does this apply to you? And there's one point where we even say, hey, let's get a debate going on this topic. In understanding your client, we're giving you a very specific tool to be aware of how your client is thinking, processing, functioning, and how that plays into what's going on. And with that, we give you tips on how you adjust to that person based on where they're at, really flexing to them. The communication class is giving you very specific techniques, tools, if you will, for how you listen, how you say what you say, how you ask your questions. And then in focus and motivation, really understanding how is the client perceiving that, how is that supporting them, and how do you create that shift so that they really are focused and motivated to move forward. With each of our classes, you're going to have a homework assignment. The first couple classes, it brings in additional research and reflection, and then the next 3 classes, we actually give you specific techniques to practice with people that you're having conversations with. And what's great about it is it's simply good communication and people skills, whoever you're interacting with. And then you write about the outcome. We move into a coaching practicum. Now, the coaching practicum is either 2 days face-to-face or it's 4 half days online. So it's the same amount of time, it's the same process either way. It's about what works for your schedule, what works in terms of your learning style. During the coaching practicum, we partner you up with other people in the class. You're going to have an opportunity to coach and to be coached. Because if you're going to learn coaching, well, of course you want to practice coaching. You want to do it. You also want to experience being coached, because when you're going to coach other people, it's important to know what that's like. And we set you up so that you are actually observing coaching sessions and experiencing that. Then at the end of the coaching practicum, we have a case study we give you. We walk through it with you step by step. You know exactly what's expected all the way through, and it's open book. When you complete that, you graduate from the Certified Professional Coach program. After certification, we have recordings and we have a monthly Q&A call. So there is a recording on business, there's a recording on marketing. We actually give you 5 recorded coaching sessions. And then the monthly Q&A call, you can come as often as you want and ask your questions. I mentioned earlier, we provide continuing education. We do a 60-minute program every other month, a 30-minute program every month, and that is in support of you maintaining. Now, as a certified professional coach, we ask you to have 12 clock hours every 2 years to maintain your certification. I know that was one of the questions submitted ahead of time. That 12 clock hours, we accept all of our programs, anything through the ICF, anything about coaching, or any one of the skills in the coaching competencies. Our Certified Master Coach program is completely online. We have 6 webinars that we do for that class. The first one is on group and team coaching. And the reason we do that one first is because it is part of your practicum. Group and team coaching is a powerful resource to offer your clients. It absolutely makes sense both for your clients and in terms of building your business. So we'll talk about group and team coaching and how to do that, and then you're going to have a chance to practice it. Our next webinar, we shift into all of our different competency areas, and we start talking specific don'ts and do's. So for the competencies on ethics and agreements, we're going to give you, here's what not to do, here's what to do to really develop and demonstrate that competency, and we'll have a discussion around the tools for that. In coaching process, we talk about your don'ts and do's for establishing trust, and then also for coaching presence. people in communication is going to cover all of your communication skills, creating change with confidence, covering your competencies in that fourth category. Then we've got a really fun one. We also do time and money coaching. Think back to when we were talking about the cons of certification, time and money. Well, time and money are influencing factors for most decisions people are making. They play into what they're choosing to do and how they're choosing to do it. So as a coach, being aware of that and knowing how to work with that just plain makes sense. Plus, in that class, this relates to being comfortable being uncomfortable, which is one of our competency areas, and being okay talking about some of those sensitive topics that are going to make a difference for your client. We also do a final debrief webinar where we're going through what you gained from your coaching practicum. Now, at the master coach level, instead of one assignment after class, we split it in half. You do part of it before and part of it after, because that way you're thinking ahead of time where you're at on a particular topic, and then after we have the discussion, where you're going with it. We do give you questions to respond to, and of course, the more real you are with that, the more you get out of it. So we ask for those real examples. The coaching practicum itself includes doing one of the group coaching sessions that's scheduled, and then it also includes individual coaching. You will actually be interviewing your classmates, be involved in deciding who your coach is, and then when you schedule those the individual sessions, it's the coach, the client, and the trainer, and that's it. So you get lots of attention and support because you're really developing yourself as a coach. The final report we ask for at the end of the program is you writing about a coaching relationship and talking about what you did and how it worked. When you complete these components, that's when you graduate from the Master Coach program. Now, for people that are continuing to build as a coach, so maybe you're a member of the ICF and you're earning credentials and you want to go on and get the additional training hours for the higher levels of credentialing, and or you want continuing education hours, we do a coach specialist program. So we have certified business coach specialist, certified career coach specialist, certified executive coach specialist, certified life coach specialist, and certified wellness coach specialist. So in these different programs, you're honing in on your particular area of coaching. And we start out by talking about both the coach competencies and the strengths that you have based on that given area. And then we have a model for moving through that coaching relationship. So engaging and understanding your client, developing and working that relationship, managing the client's priorities, setting up their future. We also talk about challenges and trends for you as a coach, and we debrief your coaching practicum. Now, with this webinar series, we have advanced reading that you're going to do, and then you'll have a report assignment after each class. That report assignment, again, gives you questions to be responding to, and you want to be using real examples. Your practicum, like the Master Coach class, is going to include group coaching and the individual coaching. Plus, at the end, your final is you doing a report on a coaching engagement. That's when you graduate as a coach specialist. Now, because we have people that are looking for continuing education and coaching and additional hours toward a credential, we have a class that is simply continuing education. It's classroom hours for that purpose. It starts out with a review of the 11 core competencies and our evaluation of the coaching that we're going to do in the program tied to those competencies. We do a class on group and team coaching. Then we move into the group coaching sessions you'll be doing with each other, and we also are scheduling individual sessions where it's you as the coach, a classmate as your client, and your trainer. You're going to have 5 sessions that you do as a coach, as a client, and then observing. Let's see, a question popped in, so let me read this. Are there consulting coaching companies that hire your graduates as a contractor, thus providing them with opportunities to coach their client base? Yes. So a couple of things in support of that. A lot of the people that come in here do have those networks that they're building and developing. Perhaps they're consultants or HR professionals, et cetera. So they're already coming with some of that network and referral system in place. On top of that, we actually do have a business development effort where we are actively out seeking contracts for coaching work and placing our graduates into those roles. So if it's a fit for a graduate, that comes up as well. On top of that, I do get contacted because I'm a coach training school where people are looking for a coach, and we worked very hard to connect them with graduates who meet that particular objective. So hopefully I'm answering that question. Great question. Love it. All right, so back to our coaching practicum. As with the other programs, when you complete your coaching sessions, we do a debrief. Now, the coaching practicum, as I said, is designed to give you additional hours for higher level credentialing or for continuing education purposes. At this point, and I do realize we've got just a couple minutes left, I think we're going to make it just fine. What's your next step? So first off, I've got something for you. I hinted at that when we started. You've invested your time here exploring the programs, looking at your options, and I'm going to return that. And what that means to you is when I send out the email giving you a link to today's recording, I'll let you know that if you email back, I'll give you a link to my calendar. You can go into my calendar and choose a 30-minute time slot, and that's your 30 minutes. Whether you want to ask more questions or use it as a free coaching session, that's up to you. For those of you that know, hey, yes, I want to do this coach training, your first step is the application. Completing the application in and of itself is a freebie. It is you checking off what's required, and it's you telling us about yourself so that when you're in class, we know who's in class. We want to make this work for you individually. Beyond that, when you know which class you want, we do have many options on the schedule. So do explore that schedule, figure out which one you want. In order to hold your place, you're paying for your place in that class. Please note, all of our online programs do fill up. The sooner you register for those is better. The same is true of cities because we plan ahead in terms of meeting space. So the sooner you hold your spot, the more prepared you are, we are, and you know you've got that spot. I do want to thank each and every one of you for your time here, your participation. What I am doing at this point is inviting your questions. So I'm going to invite those questions in two different ways. One is, I mentioned this earlier, if you want to raise your hand, I can bring you in live and you can ask that question. The second way that I'm doing it is, of course, by having you type it into the question panel in your control panel. So there's a section there. Now, some of you are looking for that. Up in the top right-hand side of your screen is the control panel. If you have just a narrow rectangle, there's an orange arrow at the top, and you can open up the full panel. And under the View tab, you can view where you can type in a question. You put it there, I'm going to see it. It pops up on my screen. Some of you have found that, so I see that. So to raise your hand in your control panel, you have an icon that looks like a hand. If you click on it, your hand goes up, and I can unmute you so you can ask your question live. All right, so I'm going to dig into some of the questions that are here. So in terms of which coaching certification, if you are simply moving into coaching as a new coming into this, the first thing you want to do is start with the Certified Professional Coach program. That's your first 30 hours. What I love about your opportunity there is that you get a chance to jump in, to get your feet wet, to test it out, check it out, and decide what makes sense for you in terms of continuing that effort. So that's fabulous, and you've got that opportunity. by the way, let me do this. I'm going to go ahead, just seeing the couple of questions that are here. So to walk you through a couple of things. On the website, if you look at where the About tab, and you look in the middle section under FAQs, it says how to become a coach. And if you click on that, it will walk you through step by step. In terms of the training program itself, the left-hand column is your first step, the Certified Professional Coach Program. It gives you a program overview and it gives you a class schedule. So some of you, I've actually got a couple of people asking about different locations. When you click on the class schedule, you'll see the list. The left column is online classes, and then the next two columns are alphabetical order, the cities where we go. The start date is there, plus if you click, so for example, let's see, here's one of the cities. If you want to know the schedule for Chicago, here it is, and it gives you all of the days that those classes are happening. So you can pull your full schedule right here on the website. So hopefully that's helping to look at that. I'm going to go in and look at additional questions from you here. And by the way, I appreciate some of you do have things scheduled, so I'm glad this was helpful. Thank you for your comments on that. Really appreciate you saying thank you and that it was helpful to you, so delighted to hear that. It seems like from the comments and what I'm seeing, I feel like we've covered the questions that you have in terms of coaching certification generally and our programs specifically. I will be sending you an email with a link to the recording on our YouTube channel, and then also you'll have my email so you can come back at me and let me know if you want to schedule that 30 minutes. So thank you everybody for your time today, your participation. I look forward to being in touch with you, and as an organization, we look forward to being of service. So make it a great day.